and that's capacity planning. And it's partly because I've spent a fair bit of time on the sales end and had a lot of people ask about this over the years and never had a real good answer for it. But now there's a much better answer for it than there has been in the past. And capacity planning has been in StockIQ for, I think, maybe since the beginning, but it only showed the capacity and where you might be hitting limits, but you couldn't do anything about it. You could just see it. And so what Jake has added is the ability to actually do something about it. And so in this case, we're going to go to the purchase tab, or purchase module, excuse me, and we're going to go to capacity planning. So purchase tab, very bottom is capacity planning. And the very first thing we're going to get, and I guess before I explain this, I should note that if you go to this in your application, unless you've had us set up capacity planning for you, it will essentially be blank. This requires an extra data feed and some configuration on our part to make it work. But it can be used in two different ways. The primary purpose of capacity planning, or the more traditional sense, is if you manufacture something. So if you're making something and the machines or the lines can only make 10,000 widgets a month, but sometimes you need 12,000 or 20,000 widgets, especially as you're approaching Black Friday or big demands, you can get yourself behind the curve. And so you'll have not enough capacity to build whatever you need by the time you need it. And so if you use capacity planning, you'll have more of a heads up on that situation. So that would be internal if you're making something internally. The other way you could look at this is if you have a vendor, say in China, where you have some dedicated capacity, they're going to, again, make 10,000 widgets a month for you. And 10,000 widgets a month is good for most of the year, except the September, October, November timeframe when you really need to punch it out so you have product in hand to be able to send to the retailers and whatnot. And so again, this would help look at that. And so what we're looking at here is a resource code, the name. So this is going to be vendor 55. So this would be an external sort of facing capacity. Line 1, production line 1. And we're going to measure this in the amount of minutes that we are given per month to use. And so I'm going to apply that, and that's what we're going to look at in the example. And then what you're going to get after that is a time frame, so start date and end date. So these are months. I believe this can be configured in weeks, but what's showing here is a monthly time bucket. We have 20,000 minutes per month that we can use, a planned capacity, a total capacity, et cetera, et cetera. But what I want to get down to is what percentage of the capacity are we using? And in this one, it's a dismal 1.33%. And next month, it's 8.36%. Again, not very high. But for the purposes of the example, it's better to use capacity in the month that you're going to use it, much like when an airplane takes off. If it doesn't have anybody in the seats, it's spoiled fruit. You can't get it back. And so what we want to do for this example is take a portion of this 8.36 and move it to June so that maybe the sales team will buck up and we'll have more to do next month. And so the way this works is we would choose the month that we want to edit. And when we do that, it will show us discretely the items that we are going to be making and essentially consuming that capacity with. And so if I come over here to the right-hand corner, I'm going to pick the one that has the most. And what I want to do is I want to move it into this month where we have plenty of capacity to use. And so this edit production button is new, and we would click on that, and it's going to summarize what it's planning for us. And we're in the month of July. Where do we want to put that? Do we want to put it in the month of August, September, or in this case, I want to put it in June. So I'm going to say move production. And what you'll see happened is that we moved it. Now we have less than 1% usage here, and we have 8 3/4 in June, which again isn't blowing anybody away. But the point is we can move it. In the past, we couldn't do this. And so there are a couple ramifications once this is done. And I guess I should say also that if I like this, I would need to save my change to ultimately make it so in StockIQ. But what I want to show you is that we had moved this home theater SKU, and the StockIQ by default locked the schedule. And so when we moved production from one month to another, it's going to lock it and not allow that to be changed because it knows that you intentionally moved it. And so don't touch it after that. And then the other feature that he added that I think is particularly slick is that if I were to look at the particular item I moved, I can see the order schedule in its current plan because I haven't saved it yet, and I can see it in my edited version. You can see it here in the typical order schedule fashion, or you can see it in the sawtooth, and I'm a fan of the sawtooth. So you can see that normally we would come down close to the bottom of safety stock here, get an order in, and we go up and down nicely. StockIQ is planning this, very classically. But what we did was we were selling through it, and then we made the conscious decision to make it early. And so now that's going to pop us above our max stock, above that gray line there. But we did that intentionally because we see some benefit of moving it. And then you can also see the lock date here in the orange, or the unlock date, I should say, where the schedule will be unlocked. So it can be edited again after that. So those are the big changes in capacity. And again, the takeaway is that if you're using it, not only can you see what the capacity issues might be, you can actually make a change, which again, in my estimation, is a big positive for the application.
Jeff, if I could pipe in just a little bit here too,
Sure.
just to make everybody aware of this. Not everybody's doing internal manufacturing, but we have a number of clients that have kind of a captive source from their manufacturers. This actually allows them to monitor their capacities as well. So just wanted to reiterate that it can be broadly useful depending on the volumes, depending on the arrangements that you have either internally with your manufacturing and or external suppliers.